missing someone.
Welcome to the EchoCast, episode 31. Weird. It's awesome. If you're new, welcome, enjoy. If you've been here before, I appreciate you coming back. We are going to do content updates, state of the game recap, division news, some speculation and discussion, a few listener questions, and then we will wrap it up. So, content updates. So, we have a few more days left in the giveaway. Again, it is for a Division 2 hoodie and t-shirt. So make sure to get in on that and follow all the things, do all the stuff. Even if you have entered before, there is a brand new entry to follow the Division Shots Twitter. I made a new home for Division Shots. So we'll have the hashtag, of course, but we'll have an account that can show off some of the cool things and stuff like that. I think it's a pretty decent guess to say that Division 2 is going to have a photo mode, and I'm hoping that we can use that account to share some of that stuff. And I'll share some things from other games as well. Obviously, it's going to be division based. So right now I'm trying to build up the numbers on it a bit so it's ready and roaring and going by the time Division 2 comes out. So even if you don't want to enter the giveaway, maybe check out @DivisionShots on Twitter as well. A big project I'm working on now that I didn't really expect to necessarily is a Red Dead Redemption 2 playthrough. As of the recording of this, I just posted the second episode. They're each going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm essentially just recording every one of my play sessions, and I'm going to post them all. I'm trying to stick to the main story to just get through, and then I'll probably go back in my own time and do all the side stuff. But I'm trying to put out one of the first playthroughs. I'm sure there's someone out there who's already recorded the entire single player and every single side mission, but I don't have that time because I have a real job and a life. But I will be happy to post my playthrough. And if you have PC and you aren't able to play yet, or maybe ever, or if you just don't want to buy the game but you're still curious, well, you can watch them. I do no voiceover. It's literally just me playing the game. So check it out. I had talked about possibly doing some of it on stream. After playing the game a bit, I'm just not sure I really want to stream Red Dead. I really like Red Dead Redemption, and the first one had me in tears at one point. And so I really want to experience the game, and I'm not sure looking at chat every 5 seconds and probably missing some pretty big details is how I really want to experience that game. Maybe when the PvP comes out or something like that, I'll do it on stream. But for now, we're probably going to be sticking with Blackout and Division on stream. So, and then as of today, 10/27/18 or 27/10/18 for my Europeans, there are 138 days until Division 2. 135 for pre-order, year one pass or whatever, people. So, hell yeah. State of the game recap. No state of the game this week. And there wasn't one scheduled. So we had the Devblog come out, which we will talk about here in a moment, on the 25th. So I highly suspect that we may have a state of the game on the 1st, on November 1st, or possibly the 8th or 7th or whatever. 8th, I think. To talk about that Devblog, the way they did with Highlander and the weapons. We had some division news. The Talon Shield got moved up a week, I believe, to the 8th of November. If you don't remember what this one is, it's the Talon Shield. It involves playing every single legendary available and beating it. Honestly, for streaming purposes and just gameplay purposes in general, that's going to be fun. I like the legendaries. I've historically complained pretty heavily about the hunters, the way they implemented the hunters in the newer legendaries. but I'll get over it. It is what it is. I do think it's interesting they moved that up. I know the SitRep boys talked about it as well, and how it's kind of interesting that they bumped that up a week. I'm sure there's probably some good reason for it that has nothing to do with anything we care about. But from a speculation side, it's kind of maybe worth trying to throw out there that there's probably some super secret reason, and it probably means that we're getting the demo next week. Kidding, of course, but it is odd. It seems like a weird thing to move, but that's cool. I'm not going to complain. We get one more little shield, little cash, and for me, another thing to listen to, a little soundbite. Back on the content for 1 second, I actually realized that I need to do another lore video for the last 4 shields that came out. I did a video for the first ones, and then I need to do one for the next 4, and the next 4 were, the last 4 we got were actually fairly interesting. So I'll dig into those a little bit, do a quick video here soon, and just be on the lookout for that. So the Devblog. So the details we got from the Devblog, it focused on the True Sons faction. So we already knew about this faction. It's the only named faction that we're aware of so far. We've seen a concept art piece that shows another faction, but we don't know what they're called. We don't really know what their deal is, and I suspect we'll get that in the next few months. But as for the True Sons, we found out that the leader of the True Sons is Colonel Antoine Ridgway, and he was a JTF colonel that was in charge of a quarantine on Roosevelt Island. The problem is that he started to not care too much about the quarantine and cared more about keeping his troops alive, because he felt like all the sick people were already dead, which, on a side note, he wasn't completely wrong. Unfortunately, he started letting those people die and starve while taking care of his soldiers. Once this was found out, the JTF arrested him and put him in a brig, and then his soldiers broke him out, and he exacted some revenge on the JTF for arresting him, and his group of soldiers and himself became the True Sons. The blog talks a lot about how they're extremely brutal, they're very nasty, they'll do anything to keep control and try to take power in the area. And from even the trailer, that seems evident. So seems like a cool class. One thing that we learned as well is that there are 10 archetypes for the True Sons, so 10 classes. If you want to compare that to the Division 1, I did a little research, and it appears there were 9 classes for the LMB, 7 for the Cleaners, 6 for the Rikers, and 6 for the Rioters. So it seems like I've been predicting for a while that I think the True Sons are like one of the lower tiered factions. There might be one more below them, but I suspect that they'll be kind of like the Cleaners in Division 1, where they're a little bit more powerful than the Rioters, but not quite as powerful as the Rikers and the LMB. I could be wrong. They kind of portray the True Sons as very powerful and competent, but I have a feeling that all of the factions in Division 2 will be pretty powerful and competent. So if anything, I hope the True Sons are one of the lower tiered, because that means that the other tiers, the other factions, will be extremely powerful and really cool and interesting, but we shall see. I had some my thoughts on this Devblog. I think I can come right out and say that it was kind of disappointing. Obviously, it's really cool to get a little bit more intel, a little bit more lore, a little more setup to the Division 2. But it's just recycling the same stuff we already kind of knew. So I think, there's probably some restrictions on what's going on with Massive and Ubisoft, and they're probably trying to hold off until next year to really start pushing some info. Everyone has to remember that Anthem comes out about a month before. I think it's only like 3 weeks before Division 2. And I highly suspect that they're going to try to kind of do a smokescreen on Anthem a bit. which is cool. That's fine. I know I'll be paying attention because I've kind of lost interest in Anthem, but you know, for the people right now, you know, who want to make content and want to hype the game up, it's kind of rough. And even for, you know, everyone else, they, you know, we want to know more, but we always will. So I think it'll be fine. It's just kind of a boring time right now, but I suspect December, early January will kick off the real info drops. Beyond that, I think that the details we got were cool. We have a, you know, a person who's kind of motivated by anger and power. We don't really have Lorraine Barrett is kind of like that in a way. She was, you know, angry at the man for arresting her and putting her away, and trying to exact revenge for those wrongs committed on her. But overall, you know, I think these guys seem like they're a little bit of a combination of the other factions from Division 1 and a little bit of their own deal. Again, I really hope they're the bottom tier, because that could mean some really cool things for the other factions, but we shall see. I did do a video for my take on the blog. If you want to check out my YouTube, it's just Bond Diesel on YouTube, and it's gotten some pretty good reaction, and I'd be happy to hear what you think. Okay, so the discussion this week. We are going to talk about microtransactions and the season pass in Division 2. So this will be super fun, but I've seen a little more chit chat about it. I've experienced a method of this being implemented in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. And it kind of was on my mind again, and I kind of wanted to talk about my thoughts on how microtransactions and season passes and stuff are covered, and how they were covered in Division 1 by some community people. I want to talk about how I think these can be handled badly in Division 2, and then talk about how I think they can be quote unquote done well in Division 2. I will make some very clear statements about that, but we'll start with the first part here. So the problem with the discussion about this is that there is room to criticize microtransactions and DLC and all of that from a true passionate like gaming standpoint. This is bad for gaming, it's bad for gamers, it's bad for the games that they're in. 100%. There's absolutely that argument to be made. The issue is that just the same way that video game developers and production studios and publishers are there to make money, a change in the last 5 to 10 years is that the people covering these things are also out to make money. So I've noticed a weird trend of creators, and not just with Division, but with other games, but definitely with the Division as well, realizing how much of a golden goose controversy about this subject is. And unfortunately, they've realized that you can harness the human psyche and its desire for drama and controversy and negativity to get lots and lots of clicks and lots of attention for this. At the end of the day, I think that even that intent can still be harnessed for good. I think that you can sensationalize the crap out of an issue like this and still make good change. My issue was best exemplified in the Division 1 when the Cipher caches and the Cipher keys were coming. They were in a PTS, and there was a lot of uproar, which was fine. They said that there would be no microtransactions in Division 1 before the game came out. That changed, which I think is fine, but it should have been discussed more clearly. Like, yeah, we didn't intend on doing this, but this is why we did. This is why we changed our mind. I don't know. My issue with the Cipher caches and keys and all of that was kind of a couple things. my main issue with it is that I think that the microtransactions with the Cipher caches can be attacked simply on the basis of you're giving us the ability to pay for items that are random and that can be duplicates. Honestly, I think the criticism is as simple as that. It needs to go no further or no deeper than that. Because I think that's such a good point that if everyone focused their efforts on that one issue right there, like, hey, don't do that. Or make dupes not happen and let us choose out of 3 random items or something. I don't know. I personally think the best way to handle these cosmetics and handle microtransactions is to just let us buy things directly. Give me that hat for $1. Give me that, clothing set for $5. The way they did with like the military sets right when the game first came out. I've been wearing the stuff from those special forces sets ever since the game came out because they look awesome. And I was more than happy to pay a few bucks for them. I mean, that's how it should be done. But with these Cipher caches, that's obviously not what they wanted to do anymore. And I think that there was such an easy and clear point to make about those and how they were random and how you could get dupes and how that was bullcrap. But instead, there is a coalition of people, some of them who I am friendly with and extremely friendly with, and some of them who I'm not, who, for whatever reason, instead of focusing on what the overall, the meta issue with this was, decided to focus on 2 specific parts of it. And in my opinion, and I think in general logic, they were the extreme minority of the type of people who were going to be doing this, or buying these caches, potentially abusing them. And it was people who are gambling addicts and children. My point is that those 2 classes or 2 parts of the community or whatever, it's not that they don't exist. It's not that it's not important. But my thing is that if you're truly trying to attack the issue of microtransactions and all of that, then if you go over the overarching issue of these random loot things being a problem in general, you cover those 2 issues without, in my opinion, sensationalizing them and going after, 3% of the issue because it's going to get more clicks. It's sensationalizing it. That's exactly what it is. And when I saw people and still see people go on about that, it makes me start to wonder, like, do you really care about this issue? Or do you want to make sure that your Patreon gets some more, toxic people dropping a few bucks to you? Do you want to make sure your YouTube videos get more clicks? Do you want to get a disgruntled community on your side? And many of you will know I have a very clear issue specifically with the term like pedo caches and stuff like that because of that exact same point. Because I think if you are going to wink wink, if you're going to passively suggest something along the lines of something that has to do with pedo caches, you're inciting the idea of pedophiles, pedophilia, all of that stuff, abuse of children. And the whole thing with kids getting access to credit cards and so on to buy these caches, sure, that's an issue. I'm not going to say it's not. I'm also going to throw out that that's a bigger issue than, these things are designed for adults. This game was designed for adults, especially The Division. And kids buying caches is more of an issue of adults not appropriately supervising children. I don't think that Cipher caches were a diabolical plan to turn children into gambling addicts to make money off microtransactions. And to suggest that, and especially to suggest it, hearkening the name, hearkening the word and the idea is disgusting to me. And the reason this issue bothers me so much is, many of you may know, or many of you may not know, that for a few years after college, I worked as a child protective worker. So my job was to receive and investigate allegations of abuse, neglect, and dependency. And in that time, I spoke to, unfortunately, many children and had to get answers from children that were 4 or 5 years old up through teenagers about how they were hurt and abused by people in some really grotesque and awful ways. So when I see someone using that issue, that real thing to me that I've seen firsthand, as a way to get clicks on their YouTube videos and to trigger people on Twitter, it's disgusting to me. It's gross. And I won't condone it, and I never will. And anyone who does or associates with the people who are all into that, I've cut those people out, and that's a shame, because there's some people I like, but I'm just not gonna do it. There's such a mature and fair and reasonable way to attack the issue of microtransactions without going, selling your soul and going so far that you have to, stoop to the idea of taking this very real problem and molding it into what you need to sensationalize an issue that is important but may not be that important. But that's only me. So there's that. I don't mean to get super serious or nasty or anything. It's there's a difference. I think that I definitely saw a mix of people who had truly good intentions and people who absolutely did not have good intentions, and were just taking advantage of a situation. I've also realized that there's only so much I can do about that. What I can do is express my views clearly, call things out when I see them if I don't like the way they are, whether it comes to how people are covering this stuff or when it comes to the choices that the Division 2 especially are going to make. I am worried about the Division 2 from like a broad sense. The way that things like the stash space got announced, and we really still don't really know what that means, all the way to how they responded to questions about things like the stash space. I genuinely believe they've given us the most accurate answers they are allowed to give us, or that they can give us on the current knowledge of what's going to be the actual product. But it is a bummer that they weren't able to say, oh yeah, the stash space for Ultimate is going to be an extra 20 spots. It'll be nice for the people who have it. For the people who don't, it's not that big of a deal. It'd be so nice to get that. There's still going to be people like the people I was talking about before who are going to make a big deal out of that. But if we have hard, concrete information and numbers and know what's going on, it'd be fine, right? It's the mystery. It's the lack of clarity, where some of the more obnoxious people and the people who are just looking to sensationalize stuff like that, it's their playground. So both for the game and for the consumers, we need full clarity. So whatever system, we're probably going to have some kind of Cipher key system in Division 2. We're probably going to have, the Cipher caches of some type. I hope it's not worse than that, because I actually don't mind the Cipher caches. Of all the games I've seen put in, I still don't think they're that bad, because if I play for a couple weeks, I end up with like 11, 12, 13, 14 Cipher keys that, especially because I have so many items already from those ones I've earned for free, I can barely even use them all. I don't even hardly need to use them anymore. So it's the best of a bad situation. But here, so let's move in. So how can Division 2 microtransactions be done badly? The number one thing that can completely derail the game before it even gets started is if there's any microtransactions or anything you can pay for that makes you more powerful. That makes you more powerful than other players who don't pay. So weapons, gear, access to those things. Now I've seen the argument that the season pass, giving people 3 days early access to the game and giving people access to the DLCs a week early is in this vein. I really don't think the 3 days will. The main people I've seen complaining about that are streamers who are literally going to play the game nonstop from the moment it comes out those 3 days early. The thing is that those are the same people who, even if everyone got the game on the 15th, would be ahead of everyone anyways, because it's their job. Because they're going to play that game for 12 hours a day for the first couple of days it's out, and they're going to be ahead of everyone else like me who has a regular job, who their job isn't playing their game, right? So I don't really go for that. For the DLCs, I can agree that if people get access to gear a week early, that's an issue. During the state of the game where they talked about that, they seem to try to rebut that a bit and make it seem like that's not going to be an issue, but that's something we definitely have to pay attention to. Another way they can do them badly is by charging too much or too little. So there's like a weird thing, a good point I think SkillUp made about the storage space is that if you ask people, if you incentivized one of the DLC, one of the editions of the game that's fairly expensive by saying, hey, you get extra storage space, well, you get into a weird spot where if you give those people too much storage space, you screw over the people who didn't do it. If you don't give them enough, you screw them over. Now, my big argument with the storage space is that it seems like the storage space is like one of the smallest things you get out of all of the other things you get with those packs. You know, the cosmetics and you know, all the extras, all the goodies and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how that works out. And so how it can be done well. So I want to put well in quotations because the best way to do microtransactions is to not have them. That concept is not lost on me. I get it. I totally understand. But they're probably going to be there. And me saying that isn't me just saying, well, guess we're just going to have to deal with it. Because that's not how it should be. But I've always looked at things in two ways. The way they should be and the way they're going to be. And so the way it should be is there should be no microtransactions. They should come out completely and it shouldn't even be an issue. But how it's probably going to be is that they're probably going to be there. So the ways I think that they can do them well, if they have to be there, is to definitely make sure to keep the Cipher key system from Division 1 and make sure that's a thing where sure, you can pay for them if you want, but if you just play the game fairly regularly, you can get it too. Those keys come up really quickly, especially if you're someone like me who for some reason still enjoys doing boss runs and stuff like that. You can get a lot of Cipher keys by just running boss runs fairly often. They drop a lot of fragments and you end up getting a lot of keys off of them. I think the idea of getting rid of the random loot box is also a really good way to do it. Maybe you can buy those keys and they can unlock, you know, specific items, or you can earn those keys and unlock those specific items. But the idea of doing the caches and getting duplicates and all of that stuff, it sucks. It's not rewarding, and it's the one thing that I can agree with that feels a little predatory. I don't think they're trying to make kids addicts. I don't think they're out there trying to get those gambling addicts to ruin their lives over Division cosmetics. But I still think that even for the regular person, like if you really want to finish that last cosmetic set, you know, it does seem a little bit like they aren't saying, well, just wait a couple weeks and you'll probably get a few Cipher keys and then you can try again. It does kind of feel like they're like, I'll just buy 10 of them. You might get it. So by getting rid of that'd be pretty excellent. And I'd say the biggest thing is that they just need to be 100% completely transparent with the details on the sales and what's going on and why they're doing it. And if there's going to be a stupid loot cache, that they need to be very clear about what's in them and throw out the percentages of the loot boxes, things that you've seen some of the European countries mandate. We did get the list of all the items in the caches a fair amount after they came out, and that way you could kind of track and see what items you did or didn't have already. But even then, especially for someone like me who has most of the items from those caches, you get dupes almost always. So while there may be a system that increases your chances of getting items you haven't already acquired, it seems pretty damn weak. And so they need to make sure that that is changed, and that we at least know, like if we know there's only a 0.1% chance of getting one specific item, then let us know. But at the same time, that probably should never be a thing. But that's just my opinion on it. I don't mean to go on or make people mad or do anything like that. That's not really what I'm going for. But I think that there's two sides to every issue, and that they both need to be examined, and people shouldn't just blindly follow whatever voice is loudest or whatever voice is angriest, because it's rarely ever that simple. Of course, that's just my opinion. I'd be more than happy to hear yours, even if you disagree with me. I am positive that not everyone will agree with me, but I think it's worth throwing those ideas out and kind of seeing what comes back. So there it is. So we have a few listener questions. The first one from Tubby, and Tubby asks, will Colonel Ridgway just be another Bliss, or will there actually be a significant difference in the feel between them? I shortened that question just a little bit. I think it's going to be a little more complex than that. Bliss, even from like a narrative standpoint, seemed like he was literally just there for the money and power. That's the only thing he cared about. Ridgway seems to be motivated by power and revenge, and I think that can lead to a pretty cool story. Now, with Bliss, we never saw him die. We shot down his helicopter, so I'm sure he burnt to death. I'm pretty sure you hear JTF agents in the Boo talk about them finding him. But I don't know. I feel like the boss fights, you know, we fought Pharaoh, we fought Luray. The rioters didn't really have a boss. You know, we haven't gotten our chance to face off with Keener yet, and I don't know. I think they'll be pretty significantly different, because with the new setting, significantly different motivations, and from a gameplay perspective, just a much more advanced game. It seems a much deeper game. I suspect that our relationship with Ridgway may be a little different than ours was with Bliss. And then with two very related questions, Wigman84 asks, what will you be eating for Christmas dinner? If I had to guess, it'll probably be green beans, rolls with butter, mashed potatoes and gravy, and ham. So you know that now, and that's a thing. And then Joji Joe, I'm sure I messed that up, asked, during a global crisis like Division 1 or 2, do you have a plan? What is it? So I have two answers for that. My positive answer is I am pretty knowledgeable with guns and weapons. We have a nice home that we could secure pretty well. We have some resources near us that we could use if we needed to. And I think we would try to barricade and explore when needed. My other answer to that is we would probably just die. We would maybe scrape around for a while, but my honest outlook is that very, very few of us have the skills or the competency to survive a situation like that, other than just dumb luck, potentially. So I would definitely do my best in one of these situations, but I'd more than likely be one of the guys who's walking by the trash pit in Hudson when you drop the tanker on it, and you would see me flying across the skyline. So there's that answer. I appreciate you guys asking. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to post them on Twitter or Discord. I normally put up a post every week asking for these questions, and I am more than happy to hear your questions, or if you just have comments on discussions I have, like the microtransactions today, and I'm more than happy to go back and comment, or maybe clarify, or maybe even change my mind or admit I'm wrong on something. If you want to find the EchoCast in other places, you can find it on Anchor, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch as Bondiesel. You can find me on Instagram as Bondiesel_Twitch. I appreciate you listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait to do the next one. I am Bondiesel, and until next time.